everyone. I'd like to start by introducing Steve Roth. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you. Yesterday, we kicked off the Ohio Safety Congress and Expo, the 2022 edition. It continues today, and it's not too late to register. If you so desire, you can register at ohiosafetycongress.com. We have a full lineup of educational sessions throughout the day. So if today's session leaves you wanting more safety and workers' comp issues or information, please attend Safety Congress this afternoon. Like I said, you can do so, register and attend at ohiosafetycongress.com. I'm also happy to announce that BWC safety consultants, ergonomists, and industrial hygienists are back in the field. So if you have health and safety concerns that would be best addressed with an on-site consultation, please feel free to contact us and we'll schedule those appointments. Some upcoming BWC distance learning opportunities. We have a webinar coming up on March 24th called Ergo Office Even at the Home. And that's one of my webinars. So I'll be delivering that. So if you'd like to see me do something else rather than these announcements, feel free to attend that webinar on March 24th. It kicks off in early afternoon, I think 1 p.m. We also have a full lineup of safety training courses this month. Yet remaining this month, we have our Safety Series Module 3, which covers hazard communication and personal protective equipment. And that's on March 15th. On March 16th, we're going to have accident analysis, a half-day workshop. On March 17th, ergonomic risk factors, understanding and identifying. So that's a half-day class looking at ergonomic issues. On March 22nd, we have developing a driver safety program. So if you have people who use company vehicles for work, this is a program that's designed to help you develop that driver safety program. On March 25th and March 24th and 25th, we have a two-day class, Electrical Safety in the Workplace through Insight and Implementation of NFPA 70E, a very long title, has to do with electrical arc flash hazards. And then we're going to conclude the month on March 30th with Effective Safety Teams, a half-day workshop. If you're interested in attending any of these classes, you can do so at bwclearningcenter.com. And if you are in need of any BWC program credits or industry-specific safety program credits, these classes are a great way to earn that. If you have any questions on that, please let me know. I'll put my contact information in the chat. Our speaker this morning is Amy Hamilton. Amy Hamilton is the My Strength Coordinator and Employer Coach at Montgomery County Alcohol, Drug Addiction, and Mental Health Services, where she partners with local employers and behavioral health agencies to provide mental health and wellness resources to their employees, clients, and communities. She has a bachelor's degree from Xavier University in social work with a focus on gender and diversity studies. She also has a master's degree in public administration and certificate in nonprofit leadership from the University of Dayton. I don't know how you can attend Xavier and Dayton, but I guess that's fine. Amy is Amy is a certified instructor for youth and mental health, first aid, QPR, suicide gatekeeper training, trauma 101, PACS tools, and social resiliency. Amy is also a co-chair for the Suicide Prevention Committee on the Montgomery County Prevention Coalition, advocating for prevention strategies in Montgomery County. So please join me in welcoming Amy Hamilton.
Thank you so much, Steve. And thanks everyone for having me here this morning. I've got about 30 minutes with you to kind of throw some really great resources your way for really support and wellness in the workplace overall. Then we'll really be hitting hard on our substance use recovery and workplace safety program, which is through the BWC, and we administer those funds. But first and foremost, thank you so much for that intro. That was great. As you can tell, I facilitate a lot of trainings, a lot of presentations for the community around mental health and addiction. And so that's really my passion. I've been working here at the Atomos board for a little over 3 years doing just that. But those of you who don't know what the Atomos board is, because sometimes we say Atomos and people are like, what is that? Let me just give you a quick overview of what the Atomos board is. It is technically a funding entity in the county for mental health and substance use treatment providers. All counties in the state of Ohio must have a mental health and addictions board. So no matter what county you live in, you have access to a mental health and addictions board. In addition to funding, we also provide numerous grants, levy-funded programs, such as the ones I'm going to mention today to you. We also have our very own training institute here in Montgomery County, which only us and Cuyahoga County have one of those. So we're really lucky in this area to have one of those. And I'll talk a little bit about our trainings at the end this morning, but we really serve professionals, community members, treatment providers, and everyone in between for needs such as mental health, suicide prevention, addiction, trauma, self-care, health equity, all of those. And we have tons and tons of services and resources available, typically at no cost to you. And so we want to make sure as employers, as HR professionals, as safety professionals, that you know that you have access to these and how you get access to them. And so we will go ahead and get started. We can go ahead and advance that slide for me. And you'll notice I'll do a little bit of education in here, as well as talking about our programs, just because I always think it's important when we talk about these programs that we also do some stigma busting as well. And so let's first talk about some trends that we're seeing. So because I'm a facilitator at heart, I like to use that chat box in these scenarios. So in the next 30 minutes, if you could really tune in, find that chat box, I'm going to ask you to actually interact with me in this presentation. So my first question in the chat box, if you could tell me, how do you think 2020, 2021, and 2022 has changed our workplaces? What do you think that has done for us? What are we seeing in our workplaces? Yeah, more burnout for sure. Yeah, remote working, less connections, so you get some isolation, less employees overall page. Oh my gosh, yes. And hopefully this training will help us get some recruitment and retention of those employees. Working while on vacation. Oh my gosh, I hope not. I think all of those really meet what we're saying. Lack of care potentially, yeah, no parts to sell. I can imagine working longer hours, of course, all of those things. And what we know is that those things that we're seeing in the workplace because of what's happened over the last 2-3 years, we're seeing this across the gamut, that it's affecting our workplaces, but it's those individuals and individual mental health, and anybody who's in recovery. We're seeing higher rates of usage, higher rates of overdose in the community, higher rates of crisis calls. So when we say crisis calls, we mean 911 calls. We also mean mental health crisis calls to our crisis lines. But overall, if we think about the individual that's working in our workplaces, there's just overall unwellness, right? And that's really hard on our employers. That's really hard on you all. And so we have to understand that people are experiencing unprecedented amount of stress, grief, fear of the unknown, isolation. We've also seen in the treatment world that a drop in people actually seeking treatment. Most likely that's due to that isolation, that no longer services are being provided in person, or if they are, they're teledoc services. So people are having this lack of access to virtual platforms. And so really we know that this crisis is happening. We know that people are experiencing this overwhelming amount of stress, but we're also seeing this decrease in people's ability to get treatment or seeking treatment because maybe they're working longer hours and they just can't get to that treatment provider. Maybe the treatment providers are overwhelmed, or maybe they don't have access to those virtual platforms. And so it's really taking a toll on our workforces because of that. And you all know that. I'm speaking to the choir. So I want to start out with talking a little bit about specifically addiction and how that affects our workplace and what we can do about it, what resources are available in the community that we can do about it. So before I really talk about that in general and how the resource that we have can assist you as a workforce, I want to do some myth busting, a quick interactive activity here about seeing kind of baseline where we are, what we know about addiction and how it affects us. And so fact and myth. So here again, this is that interactive piece I love to do with you all. So I want you in the chat box to tell me, is this statement a fact or a myth? Addiction occurs in every socioeconomic group. Thanks, Carrie, for starting us out. Paige, fact, yes, fact, true. Yeah, you guys are great. Exactly. So this is a fact. So people from all backgrounds experience addiction. We know that addiction doesn't care how old you are, how much money you make, or the color of your skin. It really has no bias. So we're going to see this no matter what industry we work in, no matter who our employees are, we are going to see addiction. Next slide. Addiction is a character flaw that people can outgrow. Is that a fact or a myth? Got a couple myths coming in. Yep. You're right, it is a myth, excuse me, I need some water this morning. The fact is addiction has nothing to do with being lazy or weak, and many people need help to get better. So addiction is a chronic and treatable disease, we've heard that. Using drugs repeatedly actually changes our brain and our brain chemistry, including the parts that help exert self-control. And that's why someone may not be able to stop using drugs, even if they know the drug is causing harm, or even if they feel ready to stop, it can still be hard. And so it's definitely not a character flaw. So many factors contribute to addiction, including genetics, which is actually a 50% factor contributing to addiction, but life experiences, trauma, history of abuse, all of those are contributing factors to the potential that somebody might become addicted to a drug. But people with addiction can get better and can stay in long-term recovery. Next slide. The people who have a substance use disorder can't hold a job. Is that a myth or a fact? I'm so glad so many of you are saying myth. That's wonderful. So yes, it is a myth. Of adults with a substance use disorder, we know that approximately 12 million people are employed full-time. So that's about 60% of those with a substance use disorder or diagnosed substance use disorder are employed full-time. That comes from our addiction policy forum.gov. And that's 1 in 13 adults in the state of Ohio have a substance use disorder. But we, again, know recovery is possible and employers can really help sustain recovery. And so I'm going to take a moment just to define what I mean by recovery, because people really don't understand this term. If you're not in my world, the mental health and addiction world, when we say recovery, somebody who is experiencing addiction, if they stop using, they begin their recovery journey. Someone can be in recovery for the rest of their life. So if they have become addicted at some point in their life and they have stopped using, then they are in recovery. And we use the term long-term recovery when somebody has been not using for an extended period of time. And that's just really defined by whatever that person defines it by. So long-term recovery could mean 3 years to someone, or it could mean 25 years to someone. But recovery is possible. And we know that if employers have the right practices in place, they can support a person's recovery and ability to stay in recovery. Next slide for me. So here's where we start to really talk about the resources that we have available for you. I will come back to a facts and myth as we talk about some more wellness resources. But so why is this conversation important? So all of the resources I'm about to share with you indeed are going to help your business recruit and retain employees. It's going to save you dollars and stress, of course, when assisting your employees with concerns around mental health and addiction. And really about making business decisions around staff safety policies. So this is our snapshot for businesses that actually comes from the COAT. If you haven't heard of the COAT, it stands for Community Overdose Action Team. But this is a great snapshot, which really tells you how addiction actually affects our businesses. And this is as recent as 2020 is this data. So that's the most recent data we have to provide a full picture to you all as a workforce. But on this slide, you can see that our labor industries and our service industries are actually the highest affected by individual overdose deaths. That's definitely still happening. We know that 40.3 million people age 12 and older have a substance use disorder, and nearly 1 in 10 US workers will struggle with a substance use disorder. Now, what we also know is workers in recovery have lower turnover rates, are less likely to miss work days, less likely to be hospitalized, and fewer doctor visits. So if we can keep our workers in recovery, then we really see a return on investment for those employees that we invest in. So since 2018, 305 individuals have also, outside of these overdose data pieces, we've also seen that 305 individuals have died by suicide in Montgomery County, and 33% of an increase in crisis calls related to suicide as well. So we're seeing an overall unwellness, and we already know that our workforces are struggling in general, and so we need to do something about it. And so the Substance Use Recovery and Workplace Safety Program is an awesome program to look at how do we support our businesses by providing you funds to be able to support your employees. So this is a partnership between the Ohio Bureau of Workers' Compensation and us at Montgomery County Atomos. This program is specifically for employers who are in good standing with the BWC. It's a no-cost program. And what's really awesome is if you're already involved with the drug-free safety program, the substance use recovery program will pay for many of those requirements for you. So the substance use recovery program is a reimbursement program where we'll reimburse employers for these things that you can see here, these benefits. And so supervisor and employee training, we know that that's really important to keep people in recovery, because knowing the signs and symptoms of addiction can help you as gatekeepers in the community, because that's who you are. And your supervisors are gatekeepers, your employers are HR professionals, your safety professionals are gatekeepers in our community. You'll know how to reach out to employees when they need help. And then peers, as employer to or employee to employee, will also be able to know when they can suggest resources during high stress times that an individual might be going through. Because we know that during high stress times, whether that's long work hours or stress at home, that increases the chance of a relapse for somebody who's in recovery, or even the starting of a potential addiction. And so when you and your staff are educated around addiction and best practices of how to keep people safe and in recovery, you can do that. And that's amazing. And it really does keep people in recovery if people are educated around you about what signs and symptoms to look for. So that's a really amazing resource that this program will pay for, is your supervisor and employee training. We also will pay for policy development and audits. So your drug-free workplace policy, if you don't have one and you need one, we'll pay for it. If you have one, but you're like, you know what, I think this needs to be reviewed. There's been a lot of new laws that have come into place, especially around some of the new marijuana laws. I'm not sure what to do about drug testing, or I want to support people in recovery. I want to have a second chance policy in my my program, but I don't have it. How do I do this? This substance use recovery workplace safety program will pay for those audits as well of your current drug-free workplace policy, which is amazing. We also, if you're a part of this program, you don't have like a wellness support program at all for your employees and you want one, not quite an EAP, but it's really a great Better You Better Ohio you can get for free through the BWC, which is a physical wellness program, health and wellness program through them that you can get at no cost if you are part of this program. And then finally, which I think really connects with people, is our drug screenings. So this program will pay for drug screenings for your employees at any point in the process, as long as you have a second chance policy in your drug-free workplace policy. So if you talk about second chances and providing employees with a second chance if they do test positive, and that second chance can look a couple of different ways. We'll share that with you if you decide you want to join or want more information on this. But we then will pay for your drug screenings each year up to $1,500. So a lot of reimbursement opportunities through this program that we'd love to share with you. To enroll, it's really simple. If you, like I said, if you're in good standing with the BWC, then pretty much you are accepted into the program. You just fill out this quick one-page form on their website, which is linked here, and then you are in our program, and then I'll personally reach out to you. But I did want one more thing with those drug screenings. People think drug screenings and recovery, how does that work? How does that keep somebody in recovery? But actually what we know is research says that if an employer has regular drug screenings of their employees, it actually encourages people to stay in recovery, right? And so it encourages them to stay quote unquote clean, because they don't want to lose their job. Their job is really important to them, of course, for sustainability purposes. And so that is actually best practice, which we love to see from our employers. Okay, next slide. I did want to let you know that we do have a drug policy technical assistance course coming up. So if you heard me talk about drug policy audits or creation and that perked your interest, we have a class coming up on April 19th and 20th. You have to attend both sessions. It's 9 to 12. It's virtual both of these days. If you are not part of this substance use recovery program, it's $1,800 per employer. So you can have as many employees in that session as you'd like. But if you're part of that program I just talked about, where you want to get into the program before April 19th, this class is 100% reimbursable for you. And then if you choose to audit your policy afterwards or create a new policy, well, after attending this class, that is also 100% reimbursable. So if you'd like to register for that, you can go to the link here. Or if you want to get into the substance use recovery and then register for that, just reach out to me and my contact information will be at the end here. So now we're into the additional wellness resources. So I would be remiss if I didn't go into all of the resources that we had here at Atomos specifically for our workforce. So when we talk about overall wellness, you have access to these as well. So here again, I'm going to ask you to do a little chat box entering for me. So let's do that same activity. Fact or myth, people with mental illness are violent. I love that you are all so fast in that chat box. That's awesome. So far, everybody is saying a myth, and I am so happy to hear that. Yes, the vast majority of people with mental health problems are no more likely to be violent than anyone else. In fact, we actually see that people with severe mental illnesses are over 4 times more likely to become victims of violent crime than the general population. And so that is a big myth that we see in the community. Of course, we see it in our media. That people who commit crimes have a mental illness, and that's just not true, or violent crimes, I should say, have a mental illness, and that's not true. So I appreciate that all of you entered myth there in the chat box. Next question. Mental health problems don't affect me. Myth or fact? Kind of back and forth here, myths and facts I'm seeing in the chat. This is actually a myth. So the fact is mental health problems are actually very common. So in 2019, 1 in 5 American adults experienced a mental health concern each year. So that's quite a lot of our population, 20% of our population experiences it each year. 1 in 10 young people experiencing a period of major depression in their lives. 1 in 25 Americans live with a serious mental illness such as schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, or major depression. And suicide is the 10th leading cause of death in the United States. So sometimes we think that it doesn't affect us, but really we know that mental health concerns are extremely prevalent in our communities. And we just tend to try and bury them oftentimes because of that stigma. But when we can become aware of them, we can support people and get them into treatment, keep them in our workforces, especially when we have periods of high stress, high work hours, the things that we're experiencing right now. Next slide. Mental illness is a character flaw that people cannot outgrow. I'm sure it's a confusing one. So we've got myths and facts in here. So this is a myth. So of course, people with mental health problems, it has nothing to do with being lazy or weak. And many people need help to get better. So again, recovery is possible. Many factors contribute to mental health problems, including, as we talked about with addiction, there's biological factors such as genes, physical illness, injury, brain chemistry, life experiences, again, trauma and history of abuse are always risk factors for mental health and addiction, family history of mental health concerns. But we know that mental health, people who are experiencing mental health concerns can get better and many completely recover with treatment. But we have to be able to help and be able to allow people to reach out and ask for help as well and know what our resources are. And so let's talk about those resources. So I'm going to show a quick 42-second video. And this is our first resource. It's called My Strength that we offer for free to our community and to our business partners in the community. Here, I will let them introduce themselves and then I'll kind of do a quick overview of this resource. So we can go ahead and play this.
We all struggle from time to time. My Strength is here to help you through it. It's a resource offered by your provider or sponsor at no cost, available to you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Whether it's depression, anxiety, stress, chronic pain, problems with sleep or substance use, or you just want to keep your emotional health strong, My Strength has a range of tools and resources that are customized just for you. Find inspiration, mood tracking, and hundreds of videos and activities that will empower you to feel better and stay better. Sign up today.
Thanks. So it is an evidence-based self-help resource really for overall emotional health and well-being. It's evidence-based. You're going to see here, you can see the interface of what it looks like. It can be accessed through an app on your phone or through a web page, but it has a lot of different focus areas. So if we click to the next slide, I'll show you what those focus areas are. But you can see those interactive applications. So stress, depression, anxiety, substance use disorders, opioid recovery, chronic pain, PTSD and trauma, and so many more, and even more that are not on this list, are some of the applications that this program, this platform has for individuals who want to have an account. So it's a completely anonymous account. Your workforce could log in, create an account, and be able to get coping strategies and information and education around what's going on in their life for the whole person. So it's mind, body, spirit. So complete physical wellness, emotional wellness, mental wellness, and spiritual wellness as well if somebody chooses. This is not just something that we have thrown at a wall and said, we hope this sticks and people like it. This is actually using proven psychotherapy models that you can see at the bottom. So individuals, if they can't get into a treatment provider or they don't want to get into a treatment provider, which is oftentimes the case, people just are not interested in therapy or counseling, this is a great alternative. Somebody can sit on the couch at their home and be able to log into this and get real good support for what's going on in their lives, whether they have a diagnosed mental illness or addiction or not, or if they just want to know how to sleep better or how to manage stress better. So really, really great application that we provide for free to our community members. If you're interested in this, all you have to do is reach out to me. If you go to the next slide, we can see what employers are saying about this app. We have lots of employers in the community who are already using it with their workforce. And so you can see people who are using this specifically to employees are recovering from symptoms specifically of depression 6 months faster than those who just had standard care, for 5.7 fewer hours of missed work, and that 3.6 times return on investment in productivity gains for employers as well. And so at the bottom, you can also see some additional statistics here. So when we say evidence-based, we mean it. We want to make sure that the programs that we're offering to the community actually work. And so this is one of those that is trusted for our workforce that we really, really love and can offer to you all and your employees. The next piece is kind of some general of what we offer to their workforce. If you've not heard of Local Help Now, this is an awesome app. You can also find it on a desktop webpage as well. But if you are an HR professional, or if you have people coming into your office a lot saying, hey, I need XYZ, or hey, I'm not doing well, this is what's going on in my life, can you help me? And you're like, I don't even know what resources we have in our community to provide help. This is something that you should have on your phone. You should be able to access this right away. We also have, of course, materials that you can provide to your employees as well if somebody were to walk in your office. But this platform, I should say, is kind of that the white pages for all of the treatment and support services in Montgomery County and surrounding areas. Vetted, wonderful treatment and support services. So if somebody's saying, you know what, I'm about to lose my house, I'm going in for closure, I need help, or maybe I'm getting kicked out of my rental, I need some rental assistance. Do you know of anybody who can help me? You can actually go to this app and find housing assistance or food assistance, or say somebody's having a mental health crisis or challenge. You can go to this app and it'll help you find resources for that individual in your office. We actually recently partnered with Crocs up in Vandalia on their distribution center out there. And we have provided promotional cards to every single supervisor on their staff to be able to give out to their teams as needed, because they are the gatekeepers for those staff. So we're talking thousands of staff members who are receiving, who have access to this really quickly and easily. And we can do the same for your workforce as well. You'll also see at the bottom here the crisis now number. So if somebody is in crisis, a mental health crisis or addiction crisis, but specifically, I would suggest mental health crisis, and you're not sure what to do, this is the number locally in our community where we can dispatch a mobile crisis team to wherever that person is to get them some support right away. There's also a text line that's a national 24/7 text line that someone can text that number 741-741 with anything. A real life person's on the other end to help that person through a mental health challenge. So really some great resources here that you need to be aware of as an employer. On the next slide, we talk about those trainings I mentioned at the very beginning. We are super lucky in Montgomery County to have this training institute available to all of you at mostly no cost. I would say I really rarely see anything that costs something to our community members, but you can go on our website, MCADAMS.org. Click on the trainings button and you can find a training calendar that actually shows all of these trainings. Mental health first aid is a certification course like CPR first aid, but teaches you how to interact with individuals having a mental health or addiction crisis. Really awesome training, can put on your resumes, and we really recommend. Again, Crocs had all of their HR professionals do this training because they were so impressed with it. But we also do shorter trainings. That one's an 8-hour training, a certification training, but we do mental health 101s that are like an hour and a half as well, if that's more doable for your staff or supervisors. We also do trauma classes if you want to learn more about trauma, and QPR just taught this yesterday. It's a suicide prevention training specific as well to teach individuals how to intervene with someone who might be experiencing suicide ideation. And then we have, those are just some, those are 3 that we offer, but we offer so many trainings, things around equity, as I mentioned, things around mental health, specific to addiction, specific to burnout, specific to workforce. So if there is anything that you're like, you know what, I want to learn more about this for my staff, whether it's just for me or for bringing it to your entire staff, we can do that here through Montgomery County Atomos. So I just rapid fire through all of that at you, and so much around mental health and addiction services that we have for you. But I want to give you a couple minutes for questions if you have any. But here's my contact information if we don't get to all of your questions today. But I do appreciate you allowing me to speak at you for the last 30 minutes. You all have been wonderful, and I really thank you for being in the chat and interacting with me today.
Thank you, Amy. This is Steve. Fantastic job. Happy to hear about those programs and some great explanations on those. So and we'll be back next month with another fantastic session. So everyone have a wonderful day.
We all struggle from time to time. My Strength is here to help you through it. It's a resource offered by your provider or sponsor at no cost, available to you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Whether it's depression, anxiety, stress, chronic pain, problems with sleep or substance use, or you just want to keep your emotional health strong, My Strength has a range of tools and resources that are customized just for you. Find inspiration, mood tracking, and hundreds of videos and activities that will empower you to feel better and stay better. Sign up today.